Okay, so we've previously talked about imaginaries or i's, which is square root of -1. Now let's talk about the definition of a complex number. A complex number is in the form a plus bi, where a and b are real numbers and I is square root of -1. We tend to look on the positive side, but just keep in mind that a minus bi is also included in this because b could be a negative number. Okay, so that guy's okay as well. We're asked to identify the real and the imaginary parts of the following complex numbers. Remember, I stands for imaginary. So if it's attached to the I, it's the imaginary part, and if it doesn't have an I, it's a real part. So here, in our first one, 42 minus 13i, and they're not combined because they are not like terms. One has an I, the other doesn't. Or if you look at it, one's real and one's imaginary. Here, our real part is 42, and our imaginary part is -13. You have to carry the sign with it. We don't write the I because we're already saying it's imaginary, which means that we assume the I is included. If we look at our second one, we have -8 plus square root of 49. Notice that we have a negative under that square root, which means we need to take out an I. So this becomes -8 plus I square root of 49. And if you remember what the square root of 49 is, fantastic. Otherwise, use your calculator. Square root of 49 gets us 7. Because 7 is a nice whole number, no decimal, we are not going to have a square root in our answer. So we're going to have 8 plus 7i, because we don't write I7. Do you have to do this first step where you take out the I and then write the square root of 49? No, but take that step until you get comfortable. Now that we've rewritten this number in a plus bi format, we can identify the real part and the imaginary part. So our real part is what is not attached to an I, which in this case is -8. And our imaginary part is 7. We don't have to write +7 because it's positive, and we don't include the I because we've already said it's the imaginary part. Our last example is 51, and you may be thinking, wait, that's just a regular number. Yes, it's one of our regular real numbers, but it's also a complex number. Don't feel betrayed. It's still the 51 that you know and love that is relatively uncomplicated. Okay? But notice that there is no imaginary part here. There's no I. Doesn't mean that we write does not exist. We know the real part's 51, but the imaginary part, if it's not there, it's a 0. Because we would have written this as plus 0i, but do we write plus 0? No. So we canceled that out, and that's why it just looks like 51. So we don't need to worry about that last part. And again, we don't write an I on the 0 because we already said it was the imaginary part.